Hey, how's it going? I'm going to do something a little bit different for you today. Something a little bit more long form. I'm going to explain the lyrics, the philosophy, and the inspiration behind them to one of my songs. It's called Waste Us. So for those of you who are interested in poetry and philosophy and whatever else, this is probably going to give you some value. You might find it entertaining or thought-provoking or some such. Whatever. So anyway, my song Waste Us. Let me talk through it. I'm not going to go through the very first part where I sing, because that's the chorus. I'm going to explain that later. The first part that we're going to talk about is the first verse, okay? So the first verse goes, "In a world that uses us and pays us with emptiness." This is talking about a certain group of men, okay? And this is mostly what inspired the song, is that the outlook that society has on men is that we're not really valuable. Okay, I watched this one interview. I can't remember what show it was on. But the lady said, hey, soon we're going to have artificial sperm and men will be valueless. Yet she was sitting in a chair that a man made. She drove to the studio in a car on the road, both made by men. So it's kind of just dumb delusion. That was what inspired it. In a world that uses us and pays us with emptiness, it's talking about these bricklayers, these road makers, these trash collectors, these taxi drivers, cops, people that make society run, but are not really valued, men that nobody really cares about, okay? In a world that uses us and pays us with emptiness, I'm used to the horns that they imagine crown my head. Now that's about me, okay? When I talk about a lot of this kind of stuff, people imagine that I'm some sort of tyrannical figure and that I've got like devil horns and stuff. Really, I'm just trying to say stuff that I believe will help someone. So it's the horns that they imagine crown my head. And there's not a huge amount of people that really think that. It's just a small, very vocal minority of people. Okay? So that's that. And you kind of get used to it after a while. In the beginning, it's kind of stressful. But you get used to having just a couple haters or whatever. And then afterwards, the next lyric goes, "Any man with competence mistaken as a tyrant or for a tyrant, and any man without competence is given no interest." So it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. You got men with competence, men that work hard, and feminism is promoting this idea that men that strive to climb the ladder, the corporate ladder, and get to the top of a social dominance hierarchy, that those men are manifesting their inner tyrannical patriarch, that they manifesting the patriarchy. And that's an extremely damaging idea to say that men's ambition is just them trying to be a tyrant. I think that's extremely unproductive, and it creates men that are afraid to be competent and afraid to work hard. And then any man without competence is given no interest. So if you are a competent man that works hard and climbs up the ladder, you are a bad guy. And if you're a man that is useless, not competent, then nobody has any interest in you. Nobody wants to hire you. You won't be able to find yourself a romantic partner because you're just useless. So you can't blame them for not being interested, but damned if you do, damned if you don't. Either you're a tyrant or nobody cares about you. So that's the trade-off. And then afterwards it goes into the chorus. The chorus goes, "So waste us." Obviously that first part is kind of like a sarcastic. It has a sarcastic element to it. It's like, all right, well, if you don't care about us, then just throw us away and see what happens, basically. Waste us, we're dirt cheap. Also sarcastic. Come on, ladies. We're the men of the world, so waste us. Pretty self-explanatory, I feel like. Okay, so we're just going to go into the next part. The next part is the second verse. The second verse, it starts off with, "Wandering the streets here, the boys that are purposeless." Now, this is kind of inspired by a lot of like Jordan Peterson's philosophy and stuff. When he talks about Peter Pan, just a bunch of men that are staying children. They're staying boys. They're staying lost boys in Neverland and never growing up. And when you don't accept responsibility, you don't create a meaning for your life. You don't create a purpose. If you don't do something challenging, do something difficult, and make something of yourself, then your life is maybe comfortable and you have no responsibilities, but your life is meaningless. It's purposeless. Next part. Incels suffer and obsess over rejection they don't understand. So, I'm not a big fan of incel culture. I think incels, for the most part, usually create their own problems, although sometimes they can be, to a degree, victims, but I hate that victim mentality. But society doesn't really help incels and tell them how to fix themselves. Rather than telling them, okay, well, you need to go hit the gym, you need to work hard, you need to start making a little bit of money, you need to actually become a competent person, go flipping fix your car and learn how to do something with your life. Go study, go learn, go do things like this, and hey, maybe your options will be a little bit broader as far as romantic relationships go. Instead of telling them that, it's like, oh, just be yourself, just be nice, and the right woman will come along. That doesn't really help, because also that doesn't happen. So incels suffer and obsess over rejection they don't understand. They don't get it, because society's telling them one thing, but they're still getting rejected. And so they develop, they become very resentful, okay? Instead of sympathy, they labeled with psychopathy. All right, that's the next part. Okay, so when they become incels, start getting into the culture, instead of people being like, hey, I'm sorry, this sucks, and then encouraging them out of that, they say, okay, now we just hate you. It's like, okay, you gave me what I thought would be the solution, or from the incels' perspective. You gave me what I thought was the solution to my problem. Now that hasn't worked, now you just hate me. So, pretty useless. Okay? Incels suffer and obsess over rejection they don't understand. Instead of sympathy, they labeled with psychopathy. Then they do terrible things. They're called a waste of space. Yeah, they become resentful, and they become evil people a lot of the times. Not all the times, but some incels have been known to do some dark things. The problem is people that develop resentment start to become bad people. They start to hate humanity, and then they end up doing something hateful towards humanity to satisfy that passion. And then they called a waste of space, okay? And then it goes back into the chorus again, twice. And then we go into the bridge part, which goes, you reap the poison of these rebels, talking to women, talking to feminists in particular, okay? You have poisoned, maybe not knowingly, maybe not with a desire to, but you've basically poisoned men, but you reap that poison. That's something that's going to fall on you. Keep throwing your years to the wind. Now that's a little bit of a controversial subject, but and something I feel quite a bit of sympathy towards women for is you cannot have children forever. All right, and a lot of women are convinced that family, many men too, are convinced that family is below career, that career must be paramount, and it brings you the most meaning in life. I don't think that's true for men or for women, and unfortunately a lot of women decide only to have children later on in life and find out that that's not really possible like it used to be, which is very, very unfortunate. So sometimes women, they can live a life and not really care about having kids ever. If that's you, that's cool. But you need to think about how lonely you could possibly be when you're 45, have no kids, and really nothing but a lot of money. But, if you have a way to set up your life and that's going to work for you, do it. But be careful. And then after that, you reap the poison of these rebels. Keep throwing your years to the wind. You've created your own destruction. So if you throw men away, you're going to damage the world. You're going to make it worse for yourself. Okay? If you see men as valueless and throw them to the dust, and men need so little encouragement. This is something Jordan Peterson says all the time. Men need so little encouragement to actually do good things. Okay? So why not just encourage them, tell them to be useful, because that's actually going to help you in the long term, rather than trying to compete with men and trying to say that you don't need them. Stabbing our eyes is the last lyric, and that's just kind of belted out. Stabbing our eyes, and that's, just blinding men. Okay, stabbing our eyes, and then it starts a guitar solo, and then I just jam out until the end of the song. And yeah, that's the conclusion. So the kind of idea behind this song is everything is run by men, not men that want to um, uh, oppress women, but men that want to provide for their families. You know, no taxi drivers thinking, wow, I really hope that me driving a taxi is gonna make life harder for a woman or something. No guy that is shoveling coal is thinking that either. No miner, no bricklayer. None of these guys are really thinking that. And so I think it's valuable to give men a little bit of appreciation in that regard, and that's kind of what the song is inspired by and what it's about. So, anyway, this went on a few minutes longer than I was expecting it to go. So, anyway, I hope this has been somewhat valuable for you, entertaining, or thought provoking. So, if it was, throw me a like and follow me on Instagram, subscribe to me on YouTube. And yeah, cheers.